He's a pig, he's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework.
What's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
Sex, but I can't relate that. Asterisk, my daughter Ivanka, yeah. She's 6 feet tall. She's got the best body. She's hot. Asterisk, Robert De Niro just dropped a jaw-dropping bombshell on Live TV, accusing Ivanka Trump of having secret affairs with Donald Trump. The Hollywood legend's shocking claims send shock waves through politics and celebrity gossip.
Although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Storm of controversy mixing politics, family drama, and public scandal. Asterisk, although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. Asterisk, the claim hit the internet like gasoline on an open flame. Robert De Niro live on air, supposedly dropping a bombshell about Ivanka Trump having secret affairs with her own father. The headline alone was enough to send social media into chaos. People weren't just shocked, they were furious, disgusted, and in some corners, weirdly curious. Asterisk, she looks more voluptuous than ever. She's actually always been very voluptuous. Tall. She's almost 6 feet tall. Asterisk, but here's the thing, as sensational as it sounded, the so-called affair revelation was more about perception than fact. No credible proof. No verified reporting. What made it explode was timing. The internet had been sitting on years of strange, uncomfortable Trump-Ivanka moments. And when this resurfaced clip re-entered the spotlight, it hit every nerve that had been building for over a decade. Asterisk, you know, a statement he'll make or we'll talk about it. So, you know, we have a very open dialogue, and I think that's one of the things I respect so much about him, the willingness to listen. And look, he's very much his own man, just like I'm very much my own woman. Asterisk, this wasn't just another celebrity gossip tidbit. It was about a long public history that already made people uneasy. That's why the conversation didn't die down. In a few hours it grew. People started digging up old clips, watching them with fresh eyes, and asking the uncomfortable question. Asterisk, why does this not surprise me? Asterisk, I think Ivanka would do that inside the magazine, although she does have a very nice figure. Asterisk, the 2006 broadcast is where it all spirals. Trump and Ivanka are there, side by side. And De Niro is hosting. At first, it's the usual celebrity chatter until the focus shifts squarely onto Ivanka. Her height, her body, her figure brought up like she's a contestant in a beauty pageant instead of a guest on a national show. Asterisk, the jokes get sharper, crossing into territory that would make any father step in and shut it down. But Trump doesn't. He laughs, he nods, he plays along. Like the comments are perfectly normal. Asterisk, he's so stupid. Asterisk, that's when the tone changes. De Niro's banter might have been meant to provoke, but it stops feeling like harmless ribbing and starts feeling uncomfortably real. Trump doesn't just fail to protect his daughter, he seems to enjoy the attention, even when the jokes sexualize her. Asterisk, viewers who saw it live back then might have brushed it off, but now it looks different. Now it looks like a man far too comfortable with comments no parent should tolerate. Asterisk, I'd call collect to his office. I was probably 10 years old. He would pick up the phone every single time and put me on speakerphone. It wouldn't be a long conversation, he'd introduce me to whoever was in his office. Asterisk, and then there's Ivanka. She doesn't roll her eyes or storm off. She does something quieter, and it's even more telling. Her smile is stiff, the kind that strains at the edges. She laughs, but it's hollow placeholder for the response she can't give. Her eyes dart, her posture tightens. It's the physical language of someone who feels the walls closing in, with no way out that won't make things worse. Asterisk, I did find it to be offensive. He acknowledged it was as well. This tape was over a decade old. I'm sure he didn't remember the conversation, but he was very embarrassed by it. He expressed that not only to me personally, but to the American people. Asterisk, that expression, that frozen, polite discomfort ended up saying more than any press statement ever could. It's one thing to defend your father in an interview. It's another to be sitting right there while strangers talk about you like an object and your father eggs them on. Asterisk, in that moment, Ivanka didn't need to speak. Everyone watching could feel what she couldn't say. Asterisk, well, he recognizes it was crude language. He was embarrassed that he had said those things, and he apologized. That's not language consistent with any conversation I've ever had with him. Asterisk, experts in nonverbal cues often talk about micro-expressions, those split-second flashes of emotion that leak through before you can hide them. Ivanka's micro-expressions in that clip are a masterclass in forced composure, the slight tension in her jaw, the tiny delay before she laughs, the almost imperceptible shift in her seat. Each one a clue that beneath the polished surface, she was deeply uncomfortable. Asterisk, so it was a bit jarring for me to hear, and he was very sincere in his apology. The challenging thing is living one's life with the intensity and scrutiny of this process. It's a very hard thing to do. Asterisk, the thing is body language doesn't lie. Words can be scripted. PR statements can be polished. But when the cameras catch that flicker of unease, it's raw truth. And that's exactly what made this moment so powerful when it resurfaced. Asterisk, it wasn't just De Niro's on-air jab. It wasn't just Trump's unsettling reaction. It was Ivanka's silent, unfiltered discomfort, the kind that doesn't fade, even after 19 years. Asterisk, he's not comparing his life to a Vietnam vet. It was ha ha and this and that. This wasn't someone off awkward dad joke that accidentally got caught on tape. No, this was the opening scene of a whole series, and Trump was determined to renew it every season. Asterisk, let's rewind to 2006. He's sitting on The View with Ivanka, and out comes the infamous line. Asterisk, if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. Asterisk, he says it like he's tossing out a clever quip, but the audience reacts with that half-groan, half-laugh that says, wait, did he actually just say that? And he's not cringing, he's smirking. Because for him, it's not a slip, it's branding. Asterisk, fast forward to 2015. Trump is talking to Rolling Stone about his daughter, who at this point is a grown woman with her own career, and he's still going. Asterisk, yeah, she's really something. What a beauty, that one. If I weren't happily married. Asterisk, and then, mid-sentence, he trails off. You can practically hear his internal monologue debating whether to cross that line again. Spoiler, he already did, just by starting the sentence. Asterisk, she's an amazing beauty. Oh, she's some catch. Man, and then you work your way into that family fortune. My God, you've got a good-looking girl, she's got a family fortune. Asterisk, well, she's got a lot going for her, but more importantly than anything, she is beautiful, but she's very smart. Asterisk, by the time the campaign trail rolls round, the whole thing evolves into a routine. He brings Ivanka on stage at rallies, calls her hot, amazing, incredible. These aren't the kind of adjectives most fathers use for their daughters in a political setting. He doesn't just introduce her like family, he presents her like she's part of the set. A centerpiece, a trophy. Asterisk, it stops feeling like awkward. humor and starts looking like a public habit, a pattern one that's been on display for nearly 2 decades. Asterisk, when things have happened through the course of this campaign that are uncomfortable for us as a family, oftentimes they've been mischaracterizations or false interpretations. Asterisk, and just when people were starting to think it couldn't get any more blatant, Cher steps into the conversation like a wrecking ball in sequence. She doesn't tiptoe. She doesn't soften it. She says exactly what everyone else has been too polite to say. Asterisk, greater than any man who calls his daughter a piece of ass deserves to be punched in the face. Asterisk, that's not a metaphor. That's Cher literally saying she'd throw hands, and the internet loved it. Screenshots, memes, viral clips. Cher went from pop icon to unofficial president of the We Need to Talk About This club overnight. Asterisk, when journalists took it and made it serious, I thought it was a little unfair. Having said that, Donald Trump would come on my show, and this is why he was great. Asterisk, then comes Robert De Niro, and he does something you don't often see from celebrities who've worked in the same media machine. He admits regret for giving Trump a platform, regret for laughing along back then, regret for not realizing how messed up it actually was in the moment. Asterisk, he calls the behavior disturbing, not entertaining, not edgy, not just Trump being Trump. Disturbing. Asterisk, when someone like De Niro, who's spent decades in front of camera, says it out loud, it changes the tone. It's not locker room talk anymore. It's not a harmless joke. It's a serious problem. And coming from voices that can't be brushed off as partisan critics, the narrative shifts. Asterisk, Melania Trump has spent just a few weeks at the White House since her husband was inaugurated in January. Meanwhile, something else is happening in Trump's orbit, or rather, not happening. Melania, she's practically gone after the presidency. Her appearances become rare, almost mythical. Weeks turn into months with no public sightings, no speeches, no ceremonial events, no awkward hand swats on the White House lawn. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Rumors start swirling that it's not just personal distance, it's protest. Quiet, calculated, and very noticeable. Asterisk, he was loving and supportive, and tough at times, a parent who challenged me and my siblings to achieve our potential and helped us find purpose in our lives. Asterisk, and then there's Ivanka, the woman who once jumped in front of cameras to defend her father. Asterisk, the woman who carefully threaded the needle between being the first daughter and a political asset, has gone quiet. 2. No interviews, no cleanup, tours, not even a carefully worded "let's move on" statement. It's as if she's put herself in political witness protection. And honestly, that silence is deafening. Asterisk, the fact that he's bold enough to say what he's actually thinking. That's something we've rarely experienced in politics. And there should probably be more of it. But here's the thing, when people who used to defend you at every turn suddenly stop showing up, it's not just a scheduling issue. It's optics, the kind of optics that make people start asking if there's more going on behind the scenes than anyone's willing to say. And when both Melania and Ivanka step back at the same time, that's not a coincidence. That's a signal. Asterisk, sure, their reappearance would certainly bring noise and attention, but that's not the long-term goal here. The Trump brand has always been about controlling the narrative, the stage, the image. But in this case, the absence of these two women is speaking louder than any rally speech or press release ever could. They're not saying anything, but they don't have to. The space where their voices used to be is the headline now. And in politics, that's often more damaging than any direct criticism. Asterisk, I think America is really seeing my father. He's honest. With him, what you see is what you get. Even if you don't like his viewpoint on a certain topic, the public sees it. The media sees it. That's what Ivanka once said. And the people who've been connecting the dots for years, they're seeing the picture a whole lot clearer now. Asterisk, but here's the wild part. The scandal everyone's screaming about, the so-called secret affairs, has nothing behind it. You could search every court record, every credible news archive, and find absolutely nothing that backs up the claim. And honestly, that's almost beside the point. Because what is real painfully, publicly, replay it a million times real is something arguably worse. Asterisk, we have years of Trump on camera turning his own daughter into a punchline. He thought was charming compliments about her body, comments about her being hot, and that now infamous "date her if she weren't my daughter" line. It's like a greatest hits album no one asked for. This isn't hidden in some basement tape or whispered at a private dinner. It's right there on daytime TV, in glossy magazine interviews, and at political rallies. Asterisk, he's a pig. He's a con artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care. And here's the thing, when that kind of behavior plays out in public for decades, it stops being about one cringy remark. It becomes a pattern that, whether he realizes it or not, normalizes something deeply disturbing, the casual sexualization of your own child. Asterisk, and not just any child, a daughter standing right next to you while you say it. The so-called affair rumor almost works like a shiny object. Here it distracts you with something salacious, while the real issue, the years of documented objectification, sits there in plain sight, practically waving for attention. Asterisk, Ivanka has continued to defend her father, insisting he's not sexist. Earlier, her Twitter account even liked an article about his decade-old comments to Howard Stern. But then 2025 rolls around, and suddenly one old clip pops back up online, and it doesn't just trend, it detonates. Asterisk, people aren't watching it with the same 2006 mindset anymore. They're watching it in a post-#MeToo. Post-access Hollywood era locker room talk is no longer excused as just boys being boys. That infamous tape where Trump bragged about grabbing women without consent is now part of the public memory, and when you watch that alongside this, it's not a stretch, it's a pattern. Asterisk, that's why this moment hits so much harder now. It's not just cringe-worthy TV anymore. It's another piece in a puzzle people have been putting together for years. And it's not only his critics connecting the dots this time even. Some of his longtime defenders are looking at that clip, then at the broader history, and saying, okay, this is not normal. You've got to be kidding me, before hanging up on me after calling CNN fake news. Asterisk, the backlash isn't just coming from one political aisle, it's coming from everywhere. And it's not just about Trump, it's about what this says culturally about what we laugh at, what we excuse, and what we let slide because someone's famous or powerful. Asterisk, which leaves us with one big, uncomfortable question. If this is how he treats the women closest to him, the ones with his last name, the one standing next to him on stage, what does that say about how he views the rest of us? Because if this is the on-camera version, you have to wonder what's off-camera. Asterisk, like this video and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single detail. Asterisk.